B2B marketing has been something that most companies either did randomly or not at all. While those targeting the consumer market understand that marketing is a must, the companies selling to other businesses see promotion or advertising as basically a waste of time and money. Putting lots of posts on social media doesn't cost money, but it doesn't differentiate your products from your competitors either. So what are those leading B2B marketers doing that helps them win sales, stand out in a crowded market, and that doesn't break the bank? I'm Jane Singer, and thank you for joining me here on A Seat at the Table. It's great to have you as part of our international community that now includes industry leaders in over 100 countries. I'm delighted to welcome our colleagues from around the world who listen to this podcast to learn from the many outstanding people who share their insights, expertise, and experience on this show. In this episode, I'm talking with Donna Peterson, CEO of World Innovators, a B2B growth strategist helping companies grow by building relationships that foster trust. By understanding each company's mission, she is able to create smart goals and a cohesive marketing plan to help them achieve results that exceed expectations. World Innovators has spent over 42 years working closely with B2B companies. From this, Donna knows what works and what doesn't, and what marketers need to do differently when facing more challenging economic times. Before we get started, if you have ever wondered how you could be a guest on a podcast, then you might want to take a look at Your Seat at the Table, a new course that shows you step by step everything you need to know to land those coveted spots on podcasts that will help you gain visibility, grow your authority, and reach a wider audience. You can find out more about this course on our podcast website at seatpodcast.com. That's SEAT podcast.com. I'll also include the links in the show notes. Now let's find out from Donna the best ways for B2B companies to market and win sales. I'm really excited to have you on A Seat at the Table. The people who listen to this show are primarily in B2B, so what you have to talk about is really relevant. And as we were discussing before, in recent years, so much of B2B marketing is really focused on digital media, right? On social media, in part because it's free, let's be honest, and because even the paid was really cheap until the last few years when it became not so cheap. So I think that people right now are wondering what should they be doing, right? I mean, you can spend a tremendous amount of time on social media and not necessarily have a lot to show for it. And you can spend, a tremendous amount of money on digital ads, but oftentimes that eats away at your bottom line. So from your experience, having spent so many years in this and having such a high level of expertise, what do you see as the most cost-effective way now for B2B marketers to promote their business?
Right now, the most cost-effective way really is email marketing.
Okay.
And the reason why is because with email marketing, you can send your message directly to your target audience. And some people come back and say, oh, but that's an old way of marketing. You got to use social media.
Right.
I work with brands that have expensive offers. There is no way you're going to sell an expensive program, $30,000 program by a social post. You're just not. And with email marketing, you've seen the statistics. It's for every, the ROI is $39 for every dollar that you spend. And there's a reason to look at email marketing.
Right.
But also with email marketing, when it's done correctly and you do it specific to an individual and you create the content that the individual wants to receive, that's when you start to form those relationships that instill trust. And that is what's going to help companies grow into the future. They've got to take the time to build those relationships.
I think that's really interesting that you bring that up. How do you do that? I mean, you say that to understand what each person receiving it wants, which might be difficult if you have a very large list.
It is difficult, but what you need to do is you need to take your list. So if you have your own list in-house, first and foremost, make sure it's cleaned and updated with all the appropriate fields, and that the individuals on your list are that, there's 20% of your customers are 80% of your sales. So look at that 20%. Make sure you know everything about that 20%. And that's where, that's where I say the magic happens. When you can really know and understand that 20%, you target them with the messages, with educational pieces. Now, when I'm saying, promote to them, I'm not like, oh, buy this. You've got to have this. This is the best product. We're the best. That is gone. Those days are gone.
Right.
So it's offering value.
Okay. So I think what I'm hearing you say is that it may be a little bit more like content marketing.
It's content marketing, but it's sent directly to your specific audience. So not just every CEO at every business in the United States or around the world. Pick specific titles, pick specific industries, pick specific sizes, and even maybe their buying influence. What are they responsible for buying? Are they looking at buying like a certain piece of equipment right now? And when you can drill down a list to get to those specific people, either within your house list or if you rent an external list, that's when you're going to see great response rates, and you're going to see those people turn from being prospects into buyers.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting that you bring up the critical part about narrowing your focus, because so often, and I think social media has really contributed to this, we tend to look at volume, right, rather than quality. We're looking, and I get caught in that too sometimes, right? Even though I know better. But you look at how many people saw my LinkedIn post, or how many people saw my post on Facebook or Instagram or wherever, and you get caught up in how many views as opposed to whether anybody actually took action on it. So how do you benchmark? What you send out this email to people? If you're selling a high ticket product, do people respond and buy to that right away? Or what do you see on your side?
No, gone are the days of one-off promotions and getting the sales that you want. It definitely has to be a nurturing, event that you set up. So you might hit them several times with pieces of material that shows the individual that you truly understand them, the situation that they have, and how you can help them. It is like building a relationship, just like you would if you were dating or with your children. You want to spend the time to really get to know them and see how you can help them so that you can form a relationship that comes almost collaborative.
Right.
Yes, you have an offer, but how can you help them?
Right.
And it's hard because as a business, I'm like you, as a business, do we want to go out to 10,000 people and work with everyone? Yeah, we do. But if we get more specific and we stay in a specific area, we're going to be able, and I know everyone uses this term, we're going to be able to work smarter and not harder because we're experts in that area. And we'll be able to help the people better.
We're going to take a quick break now, and then we'll be right back.
We were hiring when we were making 50 to 100K monthly losses.
And why? Welcome to episode 1.
I can't think of a single founder who's been around for a decent amount of time in business who hasn't had their tunnel of year. This was that year. We're going to be okay, yeah, Sheree. Some are going to hear this and think, you TDP. But hear me out. You only have to do the math to understand that very soon we were $500,000 down.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. We all fall victim to that idea that if I send it to enough people, somebody will find it attractive. But in reality, like you're saying, actually you become too watered down, too generic. You don't really resonate with anybody when you do things that way.
Yes, exactly. I saw a big change when COVID hit, because I think before COVID hit, a lot of people still were doing either mass promotions, they were more general in nature. And then COVID happened and it turned more towards from quantity to quality.
Right.
And you've seen a lot of people sit back. So whether that was quality of life quality, whatever. But I think also with promotions, I think some of us all sat back saying, you know what? I don't want to be bombarded by banners and social media ads. And don't get me wrong, I like social media because I think social media is a great way to complement your email marketing efforts, keeping your brand top of mind.
Right.
But it's the email, that's direct email into their inbox is where you're really going to, like I said, build that relationship to get them to be interested in your offer. But because you took the time to build the relationship, I don't think you will see the turnover as much, and you'll see your audience grow year after year.
I think it's interesting you bring that up because, in a sense, we've sort of been trained to expect results really fast. So a lot of people feel very frustrated, and they're sort of playing a short game, whereas from what you're saying, it seems that you need to be allowing yourself a fairly long timeline from when you start to when you expect to start to see solid results. What does that look like?
Well, you're absolutely correct. I've gone into clients and we've sat down talking about their promotions, and they'll just be, and this is the number of leads. We spent this much money. This is the number of leads. And I'll be, well, what about the branding? And they said, we don't care about the branding. I'm sorry, that is not correct. You've got to worry about the branding. It's that branding that helps you build the relationships. Like, look at Coca-Cola, for instance, if you want to take them as an example. They're a big brand. Everyone knows them, but they're still out there. They're still out there promoting their brand. They know they need to keep top of mind. They know they need to keep always enhancing their brand to build that relationship with the individual. And so branding is very important. And like you said, gone are the days of one-off promotions. You get enough sales and that's it. Now it has to be a nice cohesive strategy that builds off of each other. And so that, like I said, your audience will continue to grow versus, okay, we've got people, oh, they've dropped off. We've got people, they've dropped off. And that gets tiring. And also that's very expensive to keep that cycle going.
Yeah, it is. And, I'm really glad you brought up branding because you're right. People seem to look at that as old school. Like, why would I run advertisements? And I think that, you talk about email marketing and all, which is, of course, very important. But branding is also plays a role. And as you're saying, if you look at it interestingly, right, the bigger brands do the most branding. They're advertising, like you said, and I'm very glad you used the example of Coca-Cola because I think that just about every living human being understands what Coca-Cola is. Very few people, if you mention Coca-Cola, would say, never heard of it, right? And yet, as you said, they do advertise in traditional advertising media in addition to whatever they're doing on social platforms and everything else because they have, the bandwidth to do so. But even given everything that they have, they still choose, right, to use traditional media in many ways. And it's the same for just about any major brand you can think of. So it's interesting you brought that up.
I get mailing promotions from Google.
Right.
I think you probably do too.
Yeah.
So when people tell me, oh, well, mail is dead, email's dead, I'm like, then why is Google doing it?
Well, that's just it. I mean, you can name any one of them, even like you say, the tech companies like Apple, like Google, people who have all those resources in their arsenal, so to speak. And yet when they've done the math, they do choose to use traditional advertising in some way or another, and then they back it up, right, by, as you're saying, this more personalized approach.
Yes. And well, that personalized approach not only helps you with your marketing, but it also helps on the sales side. And let me explain why I say that is because if you're doing your marketing campaigns correctly, or you've really researched your audience and and understand them, you're sending messages to them that are educational in nature. You're really getting some in-depth information about this individual. So when this hot qualified marketing lead gets sent over to sales, it's already taking care of 5 steps that they would have had to have taken. making sure you found out the right person. What is it that they exactly need? Now this marketing person is ready to just jump in with the meat of it and get them across the, finish line to buy the product. So it's a win-win for both marketing and sales to really know and understand your audience and send messages directly to them that the individual wants to receive.
Right.
Because right now, you probably get LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, but I get so many automated messages on LinkedIn now that are not genuine.
Right.
The biggest tagline I'm getting now is, my daughter or my young 5-year-old son drew you this picture.
Oh, really?
It's so untrue.
Right.
And I can't believe they're using this kind of as that clickbait to get you in, when now is the time, like I said, build relationships, but you've got to be authentic to who you are. And gone are the days of trying to lie to get people in, because when I see that, I disconnect from them because I don't want to be associated with any companies that would do that.
It's a good point, because yes, people definitely still open clickbait. But people think, well, you see, I got them to open it. But like you said, once they open it, they don't trust you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and what do you want with that? So you get all these people who open the email, but they're not going to truly be interested in your products or services. And even if you get them to click, now look, your sales team is going after all these people that really are not your target audience. Why waste their time like that?
Exactly.
Go and send that nice specific piece so you get that audience that is really your wheelhouse and help them. Give to them versus just trying to make a one-off sale. You're trying to, I hate to repeat myself over and over, you're trying to build that relationship with them.
Right.
And really that kind of attitude will be great for the entire marketing industry as a whole.
Right.
Because you hear people talk about marketing, and I have some top executives who say, forget it, marketing doesn't work. And I'll be, you know what? I get it. It doesn't work. If it's not done properly, it doesn't work.
Right.
But if you can really dig inside, and I think this might be something we were going to touch on, but as a company or a brand, if you dig in, really understand your mission, know your why you do what you do, and set those SMART goals, that's when you're going to set up the right marketing pieces that will grow your business year after year.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know every company is different and every campaign is different, but I think a lot of people are trying to understand, well, what benchmarks might I be looking for? In other words, if I were to start doing something today, realistically, when should I start to see some return on that? And, what might that look like?
Well, I have to tell you, when you go very specific into your target audience, you can rent, let's say you don't have it on your house file, you can rent external lists and you can do email blasts. Now,
Right.
with the open rate, you got to be careful because of the iOS 15. Don't put all your eggs based on your open rate.
Right.
I do look at it, but then I look at the clicks. I look at what the cost per click is. And if you do a very specific promotion, I've seen people get as high as a 7, almost sometimes a 10% click-through rate. And that is from the quantity delivered, not from the quantity opened.
Right.
So it's because you are talking to this individual. Let's take an example. Let's say a chief scientist at a pharmaceutical manufacturing company that is interested in HPLC machines. When you do a campaign that is specific to that individual, that's when you're going to see those click-through rates of 7 to 10%. And then you work out the calculation of what your cost per click is. Then if you're able to tie in all the back information, obviously, you want to take that a little further. Okay, out of that, how many people bought? What is your cost to attain that buyer?
Right.
And that has worked very well for my clients to be that specific. And when we have the chance, I love frequency of emails, so that if you have a list of 5,000, you send them a message, which is educational. You send another message, which might be like a week and a half out. And then I even sometimes follow up with a third message, which is very short, personalized to them. And that just shows, and it's from a top executive, it just shows that top management is interested in you and helping you with your business. And that's part of that, building that relationship, showing that you as a company truly care about them and that you want to help them succeed. It's almost common sense, really.
Right.
And people have to think of it as, how do you like to be treated?
Yes.
And that's what you need to do.
And you're suggesting that the outreach come from someone at a senior level, not from someone in the marketing department.
That's correct. Yes.
That the senior person should put themselves out there.
Yes. Yes. And you have to understand, I'm talking from the viewpoint of a lot of my brands. It's an expensive offer.
Right.
So they don't really want to just, I'm not saying just hear from the marketing department, but they want to know that the CEO or the president of the company values their business.
Right.
That this isn't just a one-off sale, because obviously they would like to keep it. We all know the statistic about it's less expensive for us to keep our current customers than to gain new customers. And yes, you've got to show that upper management is involved in cultivating this relationship.
That's an important point, because traditionally upper management has sort of, I don't want to say hidden, that's really not the right way to put it, but felt that wasn't their role, so to speak, and that was really the marketing and the salespeople who should be doing that. So I think it's interesting that you brought that up and said that if you want to sell particularly high ticket items, that you have to show that senior level of commitment. Yes.
Well, it used to be marketing down here, and now I think marketing has to be up with everyone. They have to be up at the table with all the top executives. And the way we're talking about marketing now, with it being relationship building, that even has to start in-house in businesses. Top leaders have to be building relationships with their employees.
Interesting.
Because you hear in the news about, the Great Resignation and how do you stop burnout and all the different things. If you take the time as a leader to build relationships with your employees and make sure that they're getting everything they need, they feel like you care about them. And then if you are in the marketing department, when you're, the CEO says, you know what, you got to build relationships with our prospects. Guess what? You're going to understand what they're saying because they're doing it with you.
Right.
It's like, don't do what I say, do what I do.
Right.
And it's just, it has to trickle down, and then people are able to put it out. And that's when you're going to start seeing some nice value. And then hopefully you're not going to see the marketplace just bombarding people with messages, because it gets overwhelming.
Oh, it does.
Because if you're trying to grow a business right now, it's, what app do I use? What do I do here? What list do I buy? Do I buy leads? Do I go onto social media only? I'm telling you, there's days I feel like pulling my hair out. If one more person says, this is the magic ticket.
Right. Oh, exactly.
One of the things they need to do is they got to understand what makes them unique. And they got to hold true to that. They got to put confidence in that they are unique and that their customers, relate to them because of their uniqueness.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense, but you're not general. You're not just out there, meaning you can't do every marketing tactic, channel, everything that's being promoted out in the media. Otherwise, we all look like that squirrel chasing around for the nut.
Right.
And it may not be the right thing for us.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that it's really a very tough discipline. It's easy to understand conceptually, but it's a very tough discipline to pick a strategy, to narrow it down and to stick with it consistently over a period of time without being distracted by every other thing, particularly when what you're doing isn't showing you the results you want as fast and other things are being thrown at you that are promising to offer you that reward. It's difficult to just stay the course. It's sort of what separates, right, the success stories from everybody else.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I have to tell you, I'm guilty of it. Our company is 42 years old, and I have done that where, we were doing great here, but okay, maybe if we branched out over here and we did a little of that. Right. And there has been times where my team has to kind of pull me in saying, Donna, why are you doing this?
Right.
Why are you sending? So it's good to have that checks and balance in place for people to kind of rein me in and keep you on that path. But that's why it's good to review your mission statement regularly and make sure everyone within your organization, even freelancers and consultants, are aware of the mission.
Right.
And I even have a company I work with at the beginning of our monthly meeting. It's a big team meeting. He always reiterates the mission statement.
Interesting. You get caught up in the fray, and it's easy to lose track of everything else and to lose that discipline. Now, in your opinion, should B2B marketers be focusing on creating their own content, or are they better off focusing on advertising, for example, banner ads or keyword search? I mean, how do you see that?
I like a combination of both.
Okay.
I do think B2B marketers need to be creating their own content. They've got to make sure that the content that they're creating offers some value, some educational part to it. Don't be creating just content about your company, your product.
Right.
Talk to them about their industry, what challenges they might be having, what emotion they might be feeling. A lot of people talk about tell them what they want, not what they need.
Right.
So one of the things our company talks a lot about is the confusion behind B2B marketing, or how to understand email marketing.
Right.
Because right now they're being bombarded with so many messages, and it is confusing. And I will tell you, even myself, being in the industry for as many years as I have, still something new might come up and I'm like, oh, wait, how do we do that? Should we be doing that? And you just sit there getting all confused about what direction to go in. So they should be creating their own content that is educational. And then I do like banners. I think banners are a great way to complement it, and they give your brand validity.
Right.
Because if someone gets an email and they don't know you right away, they might hit delete, or they may not ever open up your message. But when you start to create a nice cohesive messaging across different channels that offer value. So if you're going to post a webinar, maybe it's going to be for a free webinar on, the 5 tips of email marketing. But then you're also going to be sending them an email directly with a case study of values of what we've seen in different industries, what has worked and what hasn't worked.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. So then, if I'm understanding you correctly, then having a banner, for example, on a very targeted newsletter about something happening in their industry gives you the branding and creates that brand awareness because it's in an environment editorially, right, that supports what you're doing and provides industry information. And then you follow that up with your email directly to these people so that you're reaching them on a personal level.
Yes, exactly. And if you don't have it, when you go to these publishers to put a brand, they are so willing, reputable publishers, they're so willing to help you. So they'll even say, oh, this is your offer. You know what? You should wait for this month to post your banner because we're doing a special, article on it. And they're willing. And even they'll say, okay, for our readers, they like the banner to look like this. And they do everything possible to help you make it as responsive, and for the people, for their audience. But the banner is a great way just to complement the other things you're doing, because I don't see banners really turning into actual sales.
Right.
Alone.
Their image ads.
Yes.
Like you were saying earlier, you need to build that image so that when people get your email, they have a reason to open it and say, oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah. Or they get your email, and you know how our days are. Our days are busy, but we really did want to look at that email, but we'll look at it later.
Right.
Do any of us ever go back for later? We don't do it.
It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's say you're browsing and all of a sudden a banner pops up and you say to yourself, oh, that's right. There's that email. And it might remind you to go back to that email.
Yes.
So we're all busy. We're being bombarded by so many messages. But if you can keep your message out there in front of your specific audience with information that's important to them, you will see that you're able to grow your audience year after year, which grows your business.
Right. Yeah, I think you brought up some really good points, Donna. For a lot of people, and myself included, there's just been so much noise and chaos around all the different social channels that you just tend to become immersed in it and you forget everything else.
Yes, that's true. And I talked to a client recently, and they're like, or a prospective client, and he says, well, I don't really need email marketing. I do everything on LinkedIn.
Right.
I said, okay. I said, have you cultivated these people so you've gotten their email addresses to add to your own house file? And he said, no. And that gets a little dangerous, because it's almost as if you're keeping your business out here and someone else has control of it. You don't have control. If they change around their logarithms or how they're going to do things, you may not have access to those people anymore. So you have to make sure you bring them onto your house file.
Well, that's just it. I mean, it's a good point about all the different social media channels, is that you don't own that and you don't control it. And you hear very sad stories about people who the algorithm changes or their account gets shut down, and they haven't really built anything that, like you say, that they have ownership over.
Yes. And you have to have ownership. You've got to bring those prospects in and have an email list, because that's also where you're able to nurture them in a way, and I'm going to say it again, builds that relationship. Right. Because when you're using the social media channels, I've seen it, some people check once a week.
Right.
Some people aren't on there for 2 weeks. So it's hard to build a relationship with someone if they open up one of your LinkedIn posts, but then they're not on there again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point also. I mean, I think that it is very difficult not to get caught up in it. I mean, me too, right? It's almost like where the action is, so to speak. But you're right. You have to discipline yourself and understand marketing has to be focused and not entertaining.
Yeah. Well, and I love LinkedIn, and it's still a great way to get the word out there. Just have them sign up for something of yours where they give you the email address.
Right.
And then, I'm talking about getting their email address, and I'm sure the people who are listening to this, but don't start bombarding those people either with emails. It has to be done in a nice, strategic way that offers value to these people. Not that you're just, my phone. Because then you'll lose them. They'll unsubscribe very quickly from that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, Donna, you've shared so many interesting things. I mean, I've worked in B2B media for, over 2 decades, but I've learned a tremendous amount just talking to you now. So thank you so much. And
you're so welcome.
How can people connect with you?
Oh, they can connect with me. I have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
It's the World Innovators channel that they can connect with. And they also can connect with me on LinkedIn, Donna Peterson. And you can email me at dpeterson@worldinnovators.com. And as you can tell, I am very passionate about this subject because I've heard so many companies and brands waste so much money and time and not get anything from it.
Right.
You know, every week I hear the story of we spent $10,000, we spent $6,000 and we didn't get one lead. There's something seriously wrong with that. If you're spending that much money and if you are doing a nice targeted campaign, you should be getting at least one lead, if not more.
Right.
And so I just want to tell people about quality marketing that will help you increase sales.
Yes. Well, I think that's a really good point. I'm going to include all of your links in the show notes. And I want to thank you again for taking the time, Donna.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Jane. This was enjoyable, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you for joining me here on A Seat at the Table. If you enjoyed this episode or learned something from it, I'd love to hear about it. If you'd like to support the show, please hit the subscribe button. And if you can take a minute to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or other channels, that would be fabulous. Don't forget to check out our podcast website, seatpodcast.com. That's SEAT podcast.com. You'll find all kinds of bonus content there, including free ebooks, productivity resources, and a preview of upcoming podcast episodes. And while you're there, take a look at Your Seat at the Table, a new podcast course that will show you step-by-step exactly what you need to do to land those prestigious guest spots on podcasts. Being a guest on a podcast is a great way to gain visibility and grow your authority. Your Seat at the Table gives you a detailed roadmap with templates to show you exactly what you need to do to achieve this. So head on over to seatpodcast.com. And if there's something you'd like to share, ideas, suggestions, or comments, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining me today and being part of our international community. I'm Jane Singer, and I'll see you in the next episode of A Seat at the Table.